All right, we're in session 3 now, the third and final session that we're doing here for the Get Serious Go Pro with your flow. And it is Sunday, June 11th. And we're just talking right now about the future observations worksheet that I assigned to people, being essentially the 4 sections of your life that you should fill out and take the time to fill out every 3 months minimum, quarterly, to check and see what it is that you're dreaming up, what it is that you value. And by what it is you value, I mean, what does your ego value? What does the person that you are experiencing, that you dream things that you like to experience, as well as over time getting familiar with what your soul values and the stuff that you're really driven to do, or maybe is your purpose here, which you won't know necessarily until you go over this practice a number of different times to start to see the pattern of your life, because none of us know for sure where we're going exactly, but through these future observations and what I'm going to show you today, you're going to have an idea of where you're going, just the same as you were going on a road trip. Like when you're going on a road trip, unless you're going out and just wandering, if you have a destination, you know you're going to that destination, or at least that's what you're shooting for. And determining how determined you are, well, that's not the right way of saying it, but according to how determined you are, you'll either get there in a short or long amount of time, but you will get there, and that's the point. If you're not super determined on getting there, you're going to find out, but you're going to see all the different places that you did stop along the way. So you'll see, as you compare your future observations from this time to 3 months from now, some of the things you achieved, some of the things you didn't. You re-examine the things that you didn't. Are you still prioritizing those things? Are they still important to you? Yes or no? Be honest. Drop the things that aren't important. Make more specific the things that are. And then do this roadmap timeline that I'm going to show you today. Did anyone experience any holdups? Because usually I'm hosting a class to actually do these things, but we're not doing an energy union session. So I didn't include the time that we take in some of the prompters or instructions that I generally do in guiding this future observations. Did any of you guys have a struggle with it? Yeah.
Yes.
What was your struggle?
So the struggle is for me like that if I know from the beginning of the week what our assignments are, then I can plan accordingly. If you do, I'm gonna surprise you with or I'm gonna give you 10 push-ups, and after they're done, you need 10 more. Then for me it's a bit difficult if I don't know that from the start
right.
plan.
Right.
So that was the main hold-up, was not knowing, But it was also because I was literally motivated to do all these things.
Right.
So.
And what I was doing there, it was conscious, is kind of a halfway between having a structured plan and a protocol with how life happens and just throws things at you, right? So I gave you, I do my best to give 72 hours or less of time to finish the homework. So there's usually a couple days to half a week to finish the homework, but you don't know what's coming at you, so you don't know exactly how to plan for it. So you have to, it's a little bit thinking on your toes, because it's not like it's due in an hour, right? I don't do it like that. Life throws things at you. It's do it now, But at the same time, I didn't give you a total big, I didn't tell you guys what was coming up on this, besides if you had this worksheet, which you all do. But even
I understand that it was mindful that you did it on purpose.
It's conscious, but at the same time, it's also partially on the fly for me too. That should be Roxanne, because you guys are all inputs. I don't know exactly what feedback I'm going to get from you that's going to alter slightly or a lot this course, and it has been altered. We haven't done everything that I expected to do. We've done most of it, but we also added in things I didn't expect we were going to do. And that's something that I've learned a lot on the fly, because I've learned how to set things up way ahead of time, but very few and far between does everything actually go according to plan. Very few and far between. But that in and of itself is a skill that you want to develop, because you don't want things to go to plan, because what it could do is fill you full of anxiety and get you to stall and eat shit at that last minute when you really don't want to. So you really want to be able to think on your toes, be flexible. But Patrick, you're busy with business, and so if I was in your mind, and the way I was communicating to you is, I trust you to take care of what you need to take care of. You trust yourself too. This is something that you've invested in. I want you to give it your all so that you get as much out of it. But if you're already getting out of it, steady the course. Don't let that be disrupted by anyone or anything, because this is what we're working on, is turning into a business. So if you're already doing business, why does it make sense to train in this stuff if it's already happened?
Yeah.
Hey.
See my message.
Yeah.
Recurring mistake number 1. Being late.
Oh.
That's okay. Appreciate the communication, and things happen. Did you fill out, or did you print out, or have the future observations? Yeah. Go ahead and bring that out now. Anybody else with a struggle or something that they noticed in particular while they're practicing the future observations?
I kind of had a similar experience to Patrick, where I like to plan my week out and fit things in, because I can be quite spontaneous. I also get distracted quite easily. So I need to slot time in, so that if I don't get something done by a certain time, I know I have a bit of backup time. So it would have felt a lot nicer, perhaps more comfortable, if I had the task from the beginning and I know I'm going to do it. But I do appreciate this is what we're doing now and fit it in approach, because it actually it takes a certain amount of focus to just do it.
And it's a bit like, I'm pretending as if I am your professionality calling you out, because once I'm gone, the actual profession isn't going to say, hey, isn't going to text you. It's going to be you by yourself, and you either write a note to yourself that has leverage enough on yourself to show up when you need to, and you'll have your own way of doing it, which you'll figure out for you, and may you just manifest it exactly perfect. But typically it doesn't manifest exactly perfect. And what I, once again, sought to do is to apply a certain leverage on yourself, to not overpressure you. If this was a really get serious, I give you 24 hours or less, period. But since it's not quite as serious, I'm going to assign it in between 48 and 72 hours, 2 or 3 days. Because I know from the amount that I've done it and worked with other people, that typically if you don't get it done in 3 days or less, you're not prioritizing it. It's not a priority in your mind.
That's the kind of thing that I felt I had to step up to, is prioritizing it and getting it done.
Yes.
Along with the video. There were so many things that I could have used as excuses, but then you can say, well, I can have a solution, or I can have an excuse. And that's what I have to rest with myself at the end of the day.
Well, you're giving me an explanation right now, and that isn't an excuse to me. An excuse is, this is this and this happened. Yours is kind of an excuse, but it's not. It's also an explanation.
Yeah.
It'd be if he was trying to excuse himself because he was feeling ashamed because you just didn't prioritize it. He didn't have anything else actually pressing. He just was like, I didn't get to it because my cat ran away and I go find my cat, or something something like that. Just trying to make up something. That's an excuse. But an explanation is different. And you will want to practice that explanation. And some of you guys didn't complete it in time, but you had an explanation for me, or you had an excuse sort of like that. And I knew that was coming. You guys did fine, and you were able to give it to me in a certain amount of time, and you did great. The idea of these sort of assignments is I'm first off, I'm being that slightly more pressureful conscious sitting on your shoulder there a little bit. That's kind of like being a polite thorn, I call it. Kind of egging you on, kind of pissing you off, but just a little bit. Just a little bit. Challenging you, but challenging you to what I call a softer medium limit. There's different limits that we can be challenged by, and something, if you ever work with me with yoga, you'll learn very much about, which is we all have soft, medium, hard, and hard limits. And if you're going to grow for long term in a constructive way that you don't have major fallbacks, you start to study your limits. And the more I work with people, typically more one-on-one, but the more I work with people, in order to get as much constructive output or results, I need to find out how to press you to your medium, hard limit, to the point of pain, to the point of anger, and be like, fuck that guy, damn, how's he get off? But slowly pressuring that, because we all have natural trust issues. It's not an issue. Some of it actually just saves your ass, and it gives you a good judge of character. But as a professional, pressing yourself, I can't just be super easy on you. I can't just make everything be like, hopefully like you manifest and you become a pro like very easily, but I think very few and far between does this come naturally and easy to some people. There are going to be roadblocks. There are going to be points where you feel totally pissed off, totally washed out, totally worked up, and you just want to quit. And my job is to strengthen you for when those times come, you'll have enough tools in your tool belt that your analytical ego mind jumps to those things rather than I'm fucked. Yeah.
I enjoyed the challenge.
Okay, good. Yeah. Well, you guys all did good.
I need to
with the
set more
challenge.
challenges for myself, and I enjoyed rising to it for myself because.
So the future observations is a good way to do that, because what you write this stuff out and then you read it back to yourself every single day. And I mean that. For a while, you really want to read this stuff back to yourself every single day. A lot of people and a lot of ego minds would be like, I know what I want. I know what I wrote down. No, you don't. You really don't. You think that you do, and when you go back over, you'd be like, oh yeah, I did remember like 75% of it, but 25, I forgot that I wrote that down. Oh, I forgot. It's weird to look back, and why I always tell you to write the dates down, write the date down, is you're going to forget about what you wrote down today. I'm not kidding you, in a few months from now. You're going to look back on most of this stuff and be like, oh yeah, I totally forgot about that. And in a few years or a decade, you might not even remember that this happened. You'd be like, oh yeah, I did that thing with Jesse Hart like way back when. I totally forgot I even did that. Seriously. There's a lot of stuff I look back on and been like, wow. Because when you're living your dream job life, when you're living your flow arts life, your dream life, stuff really flies at you, and you collect memories and you collect epic experiences so much that they get flooded in a huge pile, and you forget about maybe the majority of them, possibly. I mean, I don't know if it's the majority. I'm not measuring. But a lot of them, you'd be surprised. You're like, no, there's no way I'm going to forget that. But you do. So that's why we write down the date, we write down the notes, and you need to go back over your notes. And now this future observation is really the most important thing, because as it's been said, what you think you become. What you think you become. And I'll extend that even further. Which is why always your first and most important step is training your mind to keep thinking the thoughts or the fantasies that you want to grow and write them down, because that's your first feminine to masculine step, as in from not reality into reality step. It was just in your head, it was just a thought, it was just a dream, and now it's on paper. And that in and of itself is a 100% positive shift. You keep doing that over and over again, what you're writing down will never be your destiny. And it goes like this. Sow a thought, reap an act. As in, plant a thought that you want to grow and you act on it.
So we thought.
Reap an act.
Reap.
Yeah, reap. Like if you plant a seed, you reap its fruit. And then sow an act, reap a habit. And then sow a habit, reap a character. And sow a character, reap a destiny. This is like my number one quote, and it's totally fundamental towards basically our self-fulfilling prophetic nature, because this can work for you and it can work against you. Because what you're also doing when you're rereading your notes and the things that you value, rereading your future observations, not only are you planting a thought that you would like to grow, you're also not planting a thought you would not like to grow. So it's actually a 200% shift. Not only are you thinking about things you want to grow, you're also not thinking about a thing you don't want to grow. Because It said that you have like 40,000 some odd thoughts a day. It's very, very challenging to gain control over your own mind, but it is possible. And I didn't believe it at first too when I was first presented the idea, but I can tell you today, after about 10 years of training nonstop, it might as well be 100% of my thoughts. I know it's not 100%, but we're talking 95, 99% of my thoughts I have total influence over. Yeah.
Just that you said you're planting a thought to want to grow as well as not growing or planting.
Well, think about...
Just the wording.
Yeah. Well, let me give you another example. So we all want to have dreams and we don't want to have nightmares.
Yeah.
So if you're dreaming a good dream, you're having a good experience, you're also not dreaming a nightmare.
Okay.
It reminds me of a quote that my dad taught me from an ancient text. The best way to fight the dark is to make energetic progress in the light.
Yeah, sure, exactly. When you're not participating, when you are participating positively, you're also not participating negatively. Mm-hmm.
Hey?
Could you repeat that question?
Yeah, the best way to fight the dark is to make energetic progress in the light.
And another way to say that, to even give it a 100+% is not fighting the dark is getting energetic with the light. Flip it on its head, and even though it seems like it would mean the same thing, it means something a little different that adds to it.
Which wolf are you feeding?
Yeah, but I also recognize, why would you want a wolf to starve?
Yeah, I don't like fighting. Fighting the dark.
What I'm saying, this is another tangent. We're not going to go into it, but there is a concept of using your darkness for good.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's another thing. You will find it though, and I did write it down in the thing, that if you really want, and we're going into today's first topic. I had a more deep discussion with Ruan. He's a yogi, so I feel like I can have a little bit more depth conversation. I probably could have it with you guys too, but since he defines himself as a yogi, I was kind of like understanding what sort of practice he's up to or currently at. And I was pushing him to, and I pushed you guys all to get in front of the camera, not to create content. Like, I think this is a little misconstrued. I'm not training you guys to be content creators. That's not my purpose. That wasn't the purpose of this drill. But it could be, you could become a content creator in one way or another. So much stuff is online. You might as well learn at least a little bit of the ins and outs of it. But more, it's about learning about how to present yourself and how to speak in front of people that you don't know. If I was running something that was a true tangent away from GoPro with your flow, it'd be becoming a professional public speaker because of the value of that skill. So if anything, this had more to do with that. And I recommended to Ron, get in front of the camera and express every side of yourself. I know that you are doing your best because I gave you an assignment to give me something quality. And I knew it was going to be more quality than the stuff that you had to present here on the fly, that you didn't have to. But you presented me something on your own fly, and it was plenty good enough of a step up still. But the idea that I'm pressing, Ruan, and I'm pressing on all you guys, is to learn how to have a positive association to what you don't have a positive association towards, i.e. looking like a fool, i.e. struggling in something that you suck at, that's really frustrating or doesn't come naturally to you. Being a presenter, even though you don't want to be because it's not in your nature, and it's very hard to be all eyes on you, and you need to present something that you're not used to presenting. So if you can get in front of a camera and practice your expression without thinking about it, let yourself be pissed off, let yourself be confused, let yourself be fake happy, let yourself be mildly happy, let yourself be neutral, let yourself be sad, or whatever emotion that you're currently experiencing. You let that out onto the camera, trying to express, and I do mean trying, and I don't use that word very often. I hate that word. Trying to express yourself and make a point. Because what it'll do for you, you don't have to post it, but what it'll do for you is you'll start to get accustomed to your greater self. And people don't realize it, but all you really need to do is get accustomed to your greater self with yourself. You don't actually have to do it in front of me, or you don't have to do it in front of a public speaking group, as I did practice, and I do recommend it, but you don't have to. You need to practice it just in front of yourself, because once you learn about yourself and learn to accept yourself and embarrass yourself just in front of yourself, you will calm a lot more down and be able to focus your mind's attention and energy on whatever you want to when you need to. And when you're really able and ready to create that really spot-on content of what you want to say and how you want to say it. Moving on from that too, something I was talking with Roxanne about, she showed me she took so many different takes.
120.
Yeah.
How many
I
for
just
you?
wanted to, did you say 120?
Yes,
What?
I did.
Did you just?
Wait, you actually took 120?
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
I
I
saw,
did.
I saw
You did?
Yeah.
Wait,
120?
A lot of them, like,
I took like 5.
So here we go. This is what I said to.
Whoa!
It was like, fuck me.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That's a nice mirror.
It's just like,
Nice.
Yeah.
Well done.
no, but it's like,
Okay, well, it was what you needed to. Can I ask how many takes did it take you to?
Most time, probably like 40.
Dozens.
so everyone
Yeah.
was
Dozens. Steven?
like,
Handful.
A handful, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm gonna check now.
I didn't count, but
It's okay. You
yeah.
don't have to count.
Okay.
It's not important. But the point that I'm bringing up with that is you're letting your overly critical mind get in the way. And it's going to get in the way. So it's better that you, in my professional opinion, it's not necessarily fact, but it's the way that I experience it, is just like a flow art trick, what's better? For you to practice the trick, screw up, and restart, or for you to practice the trick, screw up, and get to the end?
yeah.
You learn faster if you act like you made it all the way through. So you would take less takes if you would, instead of interrupting yourself and pressing stop, that you talk through it and act as if you didn't make that mistake.
You get to rehearse the end as well.
And go the whole way through, humbling in your mind, knowing this isn't going to be a keepable take.
Yeah.
But I'm going to push it all the way to the 60 seconds.
So you learn how to correct your, or like a mess up.
Well, you'll
Yeah.
learn,
Make bad
yes,
choices.
of course that, but better, you'll start to get comfortable with yourself making mistakes. And when you get comfortable with yourself making mistakes, you don't excuse it, but you have an explanation for it. You will refine those mistakes. And just like with flow arts, when you hit yourself, you get so good at flowing past, the audience doesn't even notice that you made a mistake. I kid you not. I even have a hard time now looking back on some of the stuff that we recorded from Animus, where I knew I messed up, and I was like,
And you
damn, I don't even see it. I don't even see it, and I'm looking for it. I know I screwed up right there, but I didn't even see it. I'm
I
not
think
good
we
at
are
flowing past my
very
mistakes.
self-critical as people.
Yeah.
And that was one of my first, like, I know how I wanted to start. And it doesn't start like that. Now I have to, like, come all the way back to that again.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's-
yeah, I need to just roll with it
Mm-hmm.
till I get the smooth further I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm. And all of you guys had to some degree, a level of success as it relates to, because I have a good way of clearing my mind and seeing things as the viewer may or may not see them. But I've practiced very much not just dividing my attention as if I'm a professional looking at someone and criticizing, but clear my mind of that and think back to where I was just as an inexperienced observer, consumer, and see how on a scale of 1 to 10, how much am I drawn in by this person? How much do I want to participate in their call of action, whatever that was? And none of you scored 0 or 1 on that. Stephen, you definitely need to practice yours, but it was mostly like because of the way in which you had your head back. You need to be forward. Like I wasn't engaged because you didn't feel engaged. So I wasn't as drawn in. But everybody else was pretty much forward, front to the camera. You had a call to action. You gave me some degree of information, and that was good. Now, moving on to what I was talking to Linnell about, she has a very great professional aspect of the way that she works her communication. And if you were here, you guys all saw how well she did in her first video. Well, she did even better in her second video. But she wasn't giving, where I challenge her now is she wasn't giving me actual evidence what she was talking about. She's giving me the facts about her show, about what she was presenting, but she wasn't painting the picture in my mind, which I feel is now her degree of leveling up, and all of yours as quickly as you want, is you want to paint the picture. When you're giving someone a service, in business, which is the flow arts business, you're mostly giving people a service unless you're selling them props, not goods, but services. You have to present that service as if it were a good. And you have to give them a sample of that good through your storytelling or your presentation technique, i.e. painting a picture in someone else's mind. So I told her it would have been better for you to lead not with what your show is, but a story about your show that would make me think that's what it is. So you tell me what it is without telling me what it is. And then you do the call to action. Because once I've drawn in, I'm invested, I'll probably subscribe, or I'll probably, send you a message, or whatever it is a small thing to get a little bit more of that taste. And that is moving into the big topic today. We're doing much better on time now. So we're talking overall about your performance technique, but even more in depth, your performance in order to sell or to make money or to make an exchange. And I'm not a salesman, and I don't recommend that any of you guys become a salesperson either. But there is a line between doing something just for yourself, doing something just for an audience or for the consumer or the client, and finding that sweet spot that's in between the two. That's a combination of both, where you're doing something for yourself and you're doing something for the people who are going to invest in you to keep doing it, so that your work play stays work play and doesn't go too far into work, as in you start to hate what you do because you used to love doing it and now you're only doing it to try and make money or trying to survive or anything. But it's not too far play either, where you're not taking seriously enough and you're just kind of giving your stuff away, like most flow artists do, which is kind of the way it is right now. It's tough to make it as a flow artist because you either have to push it to like the super high professional degree, or you pretty much get lost in the massive amount of us who just do it for fun, because it is play. And a lot of people see it as that way. So it's hard to convince people that it's not. It's something more than play, or something more than a sideshow act or this, that. That's what we're up against. But when we're learning about how to sell, and I really mean putting sell into quotes, I call it getting people into yes mode. That's how it's described to me. And write this down. Getting people into yes mode. Now, that's how a salesperson would call it. That's how it was taught to me by a used car salesman friend of mine, who was very good at getting people into yes mode, but not so great at getting himself into an authentic yes mode. He was getting me into the yes mode. He was trained to get his customers in, and he does it to everybody. Poor bastard. He's a used car salesman to everyone because he's so trained to it. So that's why I say I don't necessarily think you need to become a salesman. I think that if you're truly presenting a service that is authentic and quality and one of a kind and truly of your heart and your mind and your soul that you really put into, it will sell itself. But on the way to that, you know that it doesn't because it hasn't so far, or at least it only has so far. And what you need to start with is getting yourself into yes mode. You're getting yourself into yes mode just by paying for this session and showing up. I got you into yes mode by lowering the price in my conscious self from $3,000 to $900. Because it really, that tells me that's the fine line between that's not enough, that doesn't even sound like it's worth it, to that's too much, I don't know if I can risk whether or not that is going to be worth it, right? So, and I can't even say that I dreamed up that price. It just came to me. And I was like, really? It's like, yes, that. And because of that price, 7 of you showed up, which to me is really good. I'm getting paid what I would get paid, and a little less than that. But what matters is that I get enough of you coming in consistently and feeling like you did invest something in this, but at the same time it wasn't too much, so you're not shit out of luck. And you know that I'm doing this more because it's a work of passion than I am doing it for money. So I first had to get myself into a yes mode of knowing that I was coming to Animus, knowing that I was going to be presenting a class on Go Pro with Your Flow, and knowing that I was going to extend that into these 3 sessions and that I was going to have to not convince you. I don't believe in needing to convince people, but I was going to have to present a service that was that felt like a good to you, like you could rely on it. You could like sink your teeth into it just for my presenting myself. Part of that yes mode was me doing this whole trip and showing up here. So like this guy must have had been able to do something right in order to take flow arts on the road and perform in all these different countries and make it all the way here to Africa. And that, so in and of itself, was a branching off of my already putting myself into yes mode, my dream and succeeding in that dream. So the most important thing for you is to get others into yes mode. You need to learn how to keep yourself into yes mode. And we're going to go over some of those techniques now. First of all, yes mode it's an intuitive art, it's a feeling art, and it's when you feel 90% or above yes on something. That's very obvious if you've ever seen an article of clothing at a store and you're just like, that's mine.
Mm-hmm.
I bring up because I'm not much of a shopper, and so I'm not much of a clothes shopper. So when I see something at a festival or at a store, or whatever, that I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, exactly.
So as soon as I know, I'm like, fuck, I hope it's affordable. Because I'm going to get that. And sure enough, I try it on and it fits me perfectly. And the price is generally right. But that's what I mean is when you have an option right in front of you and it just feels like a 90% yes or above. If you have to contemplate, first of all, if you have time to contemplate on it, that's good, but typically you don't have to. Typically you don't have to contemplate. I like to say if you don't know, it's a no. Yeah. If it's a maybe, heck, even if it's a yeah, it's still not a yes. And you want to live your life in yes mode as often as possible. At least half of your life should be in yes mode. You should agree to yourself and what's happening inside and outside of you to a yes the majority of the time. It's not going to be all the time. There's definitely uncertainties in life and uncertainties in the change and the switch, especially when you're entering a new world of business or a new lifestyle that pertains to doing what you love for money or for income, to keep going with it. There's a lot of uncertainty, but it should still feel like a yes. So even if it's not 100% yes, there's still going to be something inside you that's like, yeah, I think so. Like, yes, I do think so. There's a difference between a contemplative and this feels like I'm something I'm not used to saying yes to, but I think I should say yes to. I feel I call it a subtle, strong vibration. It's there, you know it's there, you can feel it's there, it's unfamiliar, but you're still going to say yes, even though your ego mind or your preparedness self is going to be like, fuck, no, don't do it. You know, like, I don't know about that. You know, I don't know if that's such a good idea because it's a new idea. It's something unfamiliar. And if you're really going to create something authentic, one of a kind and quality, it's going to be a new idea and it's going to be going into the unknown and you're not going to feel yes 100% of the way about it. For sure. Yeah.
But how can you distinguish between like your feeling, or I'm feeling fear of missing out of this clothing because it's on this like exposition, this mass, you know, and then you have your spirit saying like, like perhaps it's better if I not buy this because it's not truly the. So this, again with this setting yourself in yes mode. If I'm a parent, like with your business or with, if you're like your gut feeling is like, I have some fears here. So there's different voices in your head that might be either like what I will call your spirit, your like you know, or your ego that's like, oh, I like. How do you navigate these different feelings and like to maintain yourself in that yes mode?
And so that's a really great question. That's exactly what I would ask if I was on your end of the table, because that's what I struggled with a lot. And the quickest way for me to answer that is keep doing your future observations. Because I won't be able to answer this for you, because it would be coming from a standpoint that you're not currently at. But the quickest way that I've learned about yes mode is get very, very clear and practice with myself of knowing what I would like to have, do, achieve, experience, be in my life. And keep practicing that, because your ego doesn't know. Even if your ego dreams up something, what you will actually become is still going to far surpass that if you keep practicing on this. Another way that I can define it, so that's the most surefire way. You just keep practicing this, and after a few years of practice, and yes, it will probably take you at least 3 years or so to really understand and distinguish the difference, because it is very subtle. But once you become very, very clear about where your ego and your spirit align with, which is what you are still keep driven to do, even though you haven't achieved it yet, or you've only taken a certain amount of steps, and it's been much harder than you expected, you've only achieved so much, but you're still like, yes, to that thing. Then your consciousness is awesome. It will start to single out the details around you of which way to go, of which way of the path is yes and which way isn't. It's learning about how to strengthen the intuitive mind. Because the ego analytical mind and the intuitive spirit mind, they typically don't add up to each other. They're back and front, they're black and white, they're usually opposites, but you want them to get along. So the only way that your analysis mind tends to cooperate is if you keep feeling yes towards something. And then once you start to get a little bit of evidence, you start to go into a low risk yes that you're uncertain about, and you get a reward from it. Then that gives some evidence to the analytical mind. It does work, but it needs a pattern. It needs a consistency. So then you add on a little bit more. You take another slightly more risk, not a high risk, but a little bit more risk or chance that things could not go right, or you could not get your expectations. And then it works out again. Or it doesn't work out, but then what did you learn from the process? Can you learn how to turn a seeming loss into a win in disguise? Take it from soccer or rugby. The team that is unbeatable is the team that goes away from every single game having gained something. So as long as you're not over-calculating your risks, and every single thing that you do take a chance on, you gain from, you will begin to take larger and larger risks, because you realize it's not actually a risk. I'm guaranteed to gain something from this experience. The only way I would say it's an absolute no is if you know it's going to be harmful to yourself or somebody else. Really, that's the only time you shouldn't. And even if you say yes and you show up not knowingly, and then you're like, oh shit, this looks like it could be harmful to my or someone else's well-being, then at that point it becomes a no, like a hard no.
This heater is a bit hot.
Oh, you getting cooked?
Yeah.
My chair's getting cooked. I know if I can rotate.
Yeah, not the fire of the
Thanks.
So to come back on the so thought, so an act. So if you have all these thoughts and feelings and you're not acting them out, I think that's for me, that's the main challenge, is that I'm like, if I'm in my thought mode, it's like everything is like endless possibilities.
Yes.
Or like the chaos of like the ultimate, like all these potentials. If you don't act, you can't, go forward. So for me, that is the fear aspect that I see myself going into, is like I have all these thoughts, but it's hard to like act on them and like go further.
Well, so part of the future observations, which you might not know yet if you didn't go over it, is you're supposed to write out in the present tense. The present tense is saying it as if you have already achieved it, or also if you already have it. Because if you can see it and feel it in your mind's eye, it is in a reality probably closer than you might expect. If it's not, and it's a reality that is still years from now or years to achieve or manifest, you will keep planting the seed in your mind, and you'll keep being able to see it and feel it as if it were real, and pretending it's in the present tense. Not pretending. It's like a halfway
Acting
between
as if.
acting as if. Yeah, very much. And not faking it, not pretending it, but acting as if. That's a great word.
Embodying.
It's on the internet. It's called the law of assumption.
Law of assumption.
Yes.
Yeah,
Nice.
It's already done.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
When you keep writing it down over and over, Patrick, you will develop a restlessness to it. You won't. That's the amazing thing about the power of the mind, is it does have power of the body. Eventually, your deeper conscious self will override your regular conscious self, and it will put you into action. it would be harder to sit back and not let it happen than for you to take action on it. But the only way that you know what to take action on is you start seeing, I keep writing down the same things. I keep thinking about the same things. I keep visualizing and feeling the same things as if they're now and they're not now. Fuck this, I'm going to go get it. And that's as far as I'm training you on, as far as the achievement, the masculine energy to going out and getting it done. Some of it, though, will happen naturally. You will experience the magic of manifestation, where it's like, well, this feels like my soul purpose because it's like, boom, right here, and I didn't have to do anything about it. That means it's very true to your mental, emotional frequency that you're not even aware of. And that's both a very good thing if it's going towards your dream, but it could also be a very poor thing if it's going off of your hardwiring, which is what our ancestors have passed down to us. Maybe something that served your ancestry for a long time, but up until this point, in this day and modern age, when so much more is accessible, it might not be serving you as much. That's the real tough stuff. When you go down to your hardwiring and you're like, you know what? Not anymore. I'm changing this stuff. It's something that Catherine and I are experiencing hardcore going around the world, because it goes completely... Not just spinning fire around yourself, because that goes completely against our instincts.
With a little prana.
Yeah, she's gonna Catherine was spinning that fire hoop around her belly 4 days before she was born, and she has had fire spun around her a number of times, and she's very comfortable with it.
No, but I'm saying like maybe people judge you or say like
Maybe they do, but they don't tend to let us know.
Okay.
Yeah. If anything, they think that she's always cold. People are like, isn't she cold? Yeah, because we don't bundle her up like a little afraid that she's gonna freeze over and die kind of thing. No, our daughter was born at 10,000 feet and has made it all the way down to the southern tip of South America where it's freezing cold, and she doesn't even wink at it. The only time she's winked at it was when we were up at 18,000 feet and it's freezing cold, and the altitude is so high that the air quality is or the oxygen level has gone down. That was the only time that she's actually been disturbed by the cold. So. But yeah, we usually tell her, when we were in South America, I said, ella nació en fuego. She was born in fire. That's what we decided to define whenever she, because they said so many times, oh, es frío, and we're like, nació en fuego. And they're like, huh. And I think a bunch of them must have been like, what the fuck did she do? Then we show her a picture. Anyways, side tangent. Okay, and then yoga lesson on that thing. I like to say there's a natural pressure quota that we all must pay, just in order to exist. There's a level of pressure or stress or embracing the unknown that all of us are going to experience inevitably. And I think I said this in one of the earlier sessions. The difference between a successful person and an unsuccessful person is a successful person learns how to commit to that pressure, to that stress. So I would say, as you're learning about it, if it feels like an adequate amount of pressure or stress that doesn't seem like too much of a risk or no big deal, get it. Get those little bits of stress. Capitalize on that little bit of stress. Little bit. Like, work yourself up. Because none of us know for sure where our limits are mentally and emotionally, because they're invisible. You experience them, they're very real to you, but you can't prove them evidentially like you can your body. You can notice the difference between how much the physical body is able to maintain before it breaks. Where's the difference between working out and getting super strong, and where's working out too hard and hurting yourself. That is something that you have to test in and of itself, but the mind, the mental body, and the emotional body are even more challenging because they're invisible. And with the mental body, you work your mind out too much, you analyze, you think too much, you're gonna have a mental breakdown, right? The emotional body, you fall in love with someone and they break your heart, and you get head under, deep down in depression. That was pushing your hard limit. And we all have to kind of go through this. As much as I want to teach you about the book smarts, I can't necessarily teach you about the street smarts unless we were to engage for a longer amount of time and develop a level of trust. Because as a yoga teacher, I teach people how to push their physical, mental limits, which is easy enough, but to learn how to push someone's emotional limits is harder, because it can only happen through authentic experience for the most part. A Zen master will do it by taking a student in for months at a time and learning how to make them go insane in a safe kind of way. But until you're a Zen master and known for that, you're just a psychopath. Because you don't necessarily know what you're doing, and you have to develop that trust for a long period of time. But we're not doing that, so you guys have to be your own Zen master and learn how to adequately just add the right amount of pressure to yourself, physically, mentally, emotionally, as often as possible, so that you don't have the universal repo men come and take something away unknowingly because you didn't apply that energy. And you didn't know any better too. It's nothing personal, right? It's just the repo man's job. They're not coming to take your shit because they hate you. No, it's just their job. You know, you didn't pay the adequate amount. Sorry, man. Like, it's not your stuff anymore. It's the bank stuff or whoever. So I say, to get familiar with not knowing the difference between what is an intuitive, I should go for it, and an analytical, no, I should not, is think about, is it a right stepping stone for you? Is it a small enough step that you feel 90% or more confident you'll be able to handle the results regardless of what the results are without hurting yourself or somebody else? And then as you develop more and more confidence in that, they say do something that scares you every single day. So if you do a small thing that scares you every single day, which doing this video should have scared you a little bit. I pushed you outside of your comfort zone. It was supposed to be scary. By the way, I'm not using any of your stuff online. Just I wanted to make sure you guys knew that.
Yeah, the next reel.
Nah, that would be, though, if I really wanted to push you, I would say,
It's
now
gonna
post
be
it.
up, yeah.
Done.
Yeah, well, good for you. Good for you. No, but if you guys look back, if you want to look back at any of my old stuff, I posted stuff that I was afraid to post. And most of it is okay, but some of it is just like, this is ridiculous. I'm kind of embarrassed for Jesse. You know, clearly he wasn't on his game on this one. But I put it out there because I was afraid to put it out there. I was afraid to get back what I got back. And sometimes I got a good response. Sometimes I got a not good response. But I always gained from the first of all, the experience of doing it, and then hopefully some of the experience that other people had receiving it, giving me feedback through comments, through messages, or whatever. And this is where it goes to. At a certain point of embracing your fears, it kind of becomes a fetish. And then at a certain point of embracing that fetish, you realize, this is half of what life is about. Embracing the unknown, you know, achieving something and experiencing something you didn't know was out there, and knowing I did it and I succeeded from it, or I got satisfaction from that. That's why I like to say, a lot of people think I'm fearless. I say no. Fear just doesn't exist in my life anymore, because I've learned about how to analyze things intelligently and how to take risks intelligently so well that my intuitive mind and my analytical mind are a great team now. So I don't get into situations where I would be afraid. I get into situations that pressure me, make me feel nervous, make me feel counseled, be like, you know, be careful. But I've done it so many times now that it's the emotional cost, if you will, or the emotional feeling, the thing of the emotions of experiencing it over and over, the emotion, that muscle in the emotional body is strong, is flexible, is capable, and so it's not afraid of it. It's not like a risk anymore.
The only caveat is like if it doesn't harm you.
Yeah.
So you are convinced that what you're doing is not harming you. But what if you're convincing yourself, like, hey, if I do this and this, it might harm me. So that is, I think, that you're like trained now to be fearless, because you know that in every situation you will be able to cope.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, personally, I'm not there yet.
Yeah, no, and I wouldn't think that you guys are there yet. It takes a little while too, but it's great that we're bringing this up now, because it is such a great thing to become aware of and to begin thinking about and perhaps testing. Because it doesn't actually take that long. If you invest a few years of your life, at a certain point, your ego analytical mind will gain enough evidence and experience that you'll know that you have the capabilities. Like, I can tell you right now out loud with 100% confidence, I will never be sick and I will never be injured ever again for the entirety of my life. It's not going to happen. It's an impossibility for it to happen. And you're like, how does he know that? He can't possibly know that. And it's true, I don't know it, I won't know it until my dying day where I'm like, see, I showed, I told you so. I could get sick or injured. Only at that point will I know it. But I feel it. It's more than a belief. I have lots of evidence of myself, of studying other people, of studying things, and knowing how to properly keep testing my limits so I stay in a proper shape that keeps leveling up, keep getting stronger, more flexible, more capable, while at the same time not pushing myself too much past towards injury, towards overexerting myself, and not enough towards becoming lethargic and stagnant, because you have to fit in between those two places. You can't work out too hard, you can't work out too little, which is why I say, if you ever get the opportunity to challenge yourself physically, mentally, emotionally to a degree that feels like, yeah, that's a manageable baby to sizable step that I can handle, take it. Take it every single time. And it will get easier and easier and easier to take it. But starting off as you guys are right now, when it's new, the initial momentum for the first few weeks, few months are going to be the hardest. Why I set this up for 3 weeks. I would set this up for 3 months if I had it, because those 3 months are the first big key. But the first 3 weeks, you guys have made it this far. Everybody feels like they've leveled up. It seems like everyone's getting more satisfied, seeing where this is going, getting results. It's going to be harder when I'm not around. It's going to be harder when I'm not there tapping on the shoulder, say, hey, get this done. Because your old patterning ways from your life as well as your ancestors' life and society's pattern of what is acceptable is going to be there. And it's going to encourage you to take it easy. You don't have to worry about that. Hey, we're not doing that. We didn't do that. You haven't done that. No need. And you're going to have to step up to plate and say, no, I do have to do this, actually. I do have to push myself past my current standard. I do have to push myself past my current level. I got to beyond believe in myself, and I got to push myself to that point where I don't believe in myself and then still show up. I still got to play the fool at a certain point, and I got to show up when I really don't feel like it, and I even feel like I'm going to fail. I'm showing up to get crucified, I'm going to be an idiot. I'm going to show up, and I'm going to have that much faith in myself and that much faith that my dream is real, that I'm worthy of my dream. I'm going to show up just because. There's no way for me to necessarily train you to doing that unless I had you a long time one-on-one and share you enough stories and then give you enough homework that you'd be able to test the street smarts into knowing that when you are showing up at the least convenient time, when you have the least available for you, but you still show up with your heart. You don't have to show up with your mind. You don't even have to show up with a healthy body, but you show up with your heart and watch the reward that comes back to you, even if you make a fool of yourself. Then you start to develop this invincibility where you are certain you're going to be successful. Because you're like, if I can be this unsuccessful in a situation and not go lower, like I know where my humbling, humiliating point is, I know I can only go up from here. I can only gain from that rock bottom. So I train people to comfortably and constructively and consciously find their rock bottom. It's not like hitting rock bottom. That happens when you do things unhealthily, when it's unhealthy for yourself or somebody else. That's when that rock bottom hits you hard. But to find your bottom gives you a sense of absolute invincibility because you know I can only go up from here. Yes, you could go back down after that up again, but you've already shown yourself that you can resurface. And that's really just it. If you show yourself you go all the way to the bottom and you don't drown and you come back up, something about you tells you, I'm an expert swimmer, or I'm an expert deep diver or something like that. I have a skill that I didn't even realize that I had. I can beyond survive in the bleakest of conditions. I can thrive, or I can gain from the bleakest of conditions. But you won't know until you push it that far. And so this short initial training is just giving you the tools that when you do reach that point, and you probably will, that instead of your mind jumping to let's quit, let's be over, no one else does this, I don't need to do this, I can go back to what's comfortable, you have enough things that was like, no, actually, I've already invested in this, I already know all these different techniques, I'm not going to be able to forget about this, boom. So it evolves from tripping, stumbling, falling, and having to get back up, to falling with grace and getting right back up, not skipping a beat, to never falling. That's really like the evolution of it. We seem like we make mistakes. Go back to that old Batman quote, why do we fall down, Bruce, to pick ourselves back up? Well, that's how we start. We fall down, we stumble, we trip, we hurt ourselves, we get back up. And we do that again, and we do that again. But then like a flow art, you realize, or more like a parkour enthusiast, you realize falling is the new trick. And you fall and you do a somersault or something, and you flow right into getting back up, to the point where I don't know at what point I fell and got back up. I know I did fall and I know I did go back up, but it was so fluid. Did I really? And I call that not skipping a beat, which is a skill you'll develop through the humility it takes, through not knowing what you're doing, making mistakes, experiencing the natural humbling lessons that are just going to be the developing of the street smarts to becoming a professional, to getting so good at that you can anticipate the fall about to happen. That's when your intuitive mind is very strong, and you'll see it coming from a mile away, and then you'll be able to choose, am I ready to go through this fall and smoothly move through it, or should I just leave it and be, and I don't need to go fall. I can go about it differently. I don't feel like, putting on that show or that trick. And then that's real power. Because it's really interesting. Not only do I feel like no one, that I'm not going to get sick or injured anymore, but I can tell very confidently that anybody who spends a certain amount of time around me is also going to have that same experience. Like it'll just branch off. We'll just start exchanging energies, and you also start to, you'll release stuff where it's not like the environment is perfectly pure, in the world, but there's a way in which when you go through different things that feel like it's making you sick, you start to recognize, actually, this is just strengthening my immune system. Just the same as when you go through a business venture and it doesn't work out, you're like, this is just making me into a greater business person. It's not that I'm a failure in a business person, even though I didn't get the deal or whatever. If I learned from it, I succeeded. This was a success, even though I didn't get the results I was expecting. Okay? So if you're able to put all of what I just said together into a repetitious cycle and you start to get your own evidence, this is how you generate a constant yes mode within yourself, because you realize you're always going to gain from every single experience you have, because you're training your mind to only look towards what is my end result? What is my end result? In the long term, being your future observation end result, and breaking it down into your short term. And now moving into the next exercise. Your short-term end results is what's going to give the ego analytical mind confidence or faith that what the intuitive dreaming mind is thinking up is possible. So on a new sheet of paper or on the back of your future observations, actually, first of all, let's go around the room and share a quick future observation. I know we kind of started this at the beginning with the meeting out there where you talked about who you are becoming, who you are as a flow artist, as well as who you're becoming as a flow artist. But I want you guys to share a little bit more that you've written something down. As to, you can share anything that you want. It can be a trick that you want to learn. It can be a prop that you want to own. It can be something specific about the profession. I remember one of my students, he wants a standing ovation for one of his performances. That was one of his future observations. And so I set it up for him to learn how to get to that. And it was really cool. So let's go around the room and go ahead and just share one or maybe two things, if they're related, as to what do you observe in your future as it relates to being a pro flow artist. What does it mean to you as it defines you? As you think, this is a professional flow artist. You see people online, they're professional flow artists because that. And you're adopting that and making it your own. How? It could be, I get 100,000 watches on a video. That could mean it. Or I make a certain X amount of dollars or rand at a gig, and that's my vision of true success. Or I'm able to afford props. Oh, here's one that I've been able to achieve, and I was so fortunate when I was able to cast it to someone authentically. Someone was offering for me to buy props, and I said, I don't buy props. People give me props.
Oh!
And even though she didn't give me hers,
Yeah.
I knew at that point I did. And I can say, like, I've got those new fans from Duncan. I've got these from Halen. Did I pay for these? No.
In a way.
In a way.
Time.
Yeah, but I didn't have to pay the cash money.
Yeah.
I'm all about doing exchanges, and I'm still doing exchanges with Duncan and Carrie Ann in order for those fans to be in trade. But I didn't have to pay for them. And to me, I visualize that the big performance, and I'm not even as good as they are. You know, the big people that I've seen on YouTube and social media, the best of the best, they don't pay for their props. They get paid even probably sometimes for those props to make a video or do a review or something. I'm not quite there yet, but good step on my way. So that was something that I visualized, and I was very satisfied. At a certain point, maybe a year or two ago, I was able to actually realize, that one came through. I'm there. You know, I'm at that level of a professional flow artist. It's still ever higher. Your future observations, these dreams, what's really sweet about them is you're going to achieve them, and you're going to have a lot of time still to dream even higher than that. So get excited about that. These are the things that are probably coming in less than a decade, or maybe even less than 5 years from now. And you're still going to be very young people with a lot more potential, and you're going to have not only the belief that you can achieve your dreams, you're going to know that you can, which is going to be a multiplier, an amplifier for you. You're going to be able to achieve things that much faster, and then maybe even get to where I'm at, where you're going to help other people to achieve theirs, which is even more rewarding somehow than what you achieve. When you're able to witness your students, your friends, your people get their success, somehow it feels even that much more sweet than getting stuff yourself, because you're able to share in the celebration together rather than just like, oh, look what I did, you know, with me. You're able to all celebrate in that. So let's talk about what we're going to be celebrating in your future now, today. Go ahead, Ron.
For me, what I'm celebrating is just connections that I've made. That's been the biggest thing, but I also think my whole goal has always been to create community around what I'm doing. And what that's also taught me is by making friends with new people, that also are connections. That opens up opportunities to learn from people overseas, here, find out about making props, all these kinds of things. So there's a lot of opportunity that's come just from reaching out to different people, and I'm already living that.
Already living it.
Yeah.
So can you see in your mind's eye something a little bit more specific?
Oh, absolutely. So if I had to go to the most extreme version of this, I see myself, because I've made these connections overseas, for instance, I might be doing certifications overseas.
Where?
America, probably specifically.
A particular state or city?
No, but probably, again, just I have a mentor in Michigan. So I'll probably try and connect up with him, and then I know some people in the UK as well, and it's, you know.
And I bet you one conversation with your mentor
Yeah.
in Michigan would tell you exactly what city it's going to happen in.
Yeah, exactly. So
Because he'll know.
Yeah.
He'll know where it's happened or where it's popular and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He'll feed it to you. You'll have a visualization. You can go look up, probably right on Google, see the city, see the studio
Yeah.
that it's going to happen in, and boom, it's even more real at that point.
But what's really interesting to me is, like, I'm connected with a lot of really good coaches overseas, and they're all teaching a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no problem just sending somebody a message on Instagram and then, hey, can you teach me a trick? And they all go, yes.
Nice.
Let's connect. And that to me is the most amazing thing of what's happening already.
That's epic.
Yeah.
You're giving me ideas too. Consider that. Okay, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going. So good to get as specific as possible, because what you're going to want to do is, as you develop this dream in your head, you want to start making it as real as possible. So you know the city, you know, maybe not the specific date, but around the time when it's going to happen. Even if it doesn't pan out to that specific city, that specific time, still you're bringing factual evidence into the analytical mind helps to create that leverage, which will make it happen inevitably. When it's not actually that important, just that it happens is important. Like,
Sorry,
right?
I'm not ignoring. I want to show you something.
For some people, the specifics is very important, and if that's the case, fine. If you have to do that particular gig with that particular person, that particular time, in that particular city, go for it. Put your all into it. But for most of us, maybe it's a little bit more flexible. Like with me, it doesn't matter to me what cities around the world I perform or teach in, just as long as it's around the world, you know, in other countries besides the States.
So this is the only other guy that I really know who's really big with fire mace. So I reached out to him. He doesn't know me at all.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, this is good, but show it to me when it actually
Yeah,
comes into material, because people say yes a lot, but it doesn't always materialize into.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to doubt you. I'm not doubting you. I'm just saying, show me the tangible thing. Once it happens, great. Yeah, please.
Yeah, once I have a weekend.
I will only hold space. I will only hold space that will come into reality. All right, go ahead, Halen.
Yeah, so this overall process for me is more like a framework. I've done processes like this before, and it was interesting to retouch on it. And I know I can definitely write it over again in the next couple of days and add in more details, because it was quite a process to plan out and connect the dots of the life that I'm building and changing from the I want to I am, and this is the life that I have, was quite an interesting process in and of itself, because I project a lot into my future even though I try not to, and it's like, okay, this is how to be with that and that, and I get distracted quite easily from like the foundational things that'll take me to get there, because maybe some of it stays too much in imagination. And there's a real process in getting there and understanding where one has come from in order to get to where one is now. And so a lot of the process for me was reminding myself of what I want to do and who I am and who I want to become and who I am becoming and how they all tie together, and like reminding myself that it's okay to be where I am because this is where I've gotten to. And so I don't have details necessarily, but I have a very strong vision, which is taking more shape every time I reread over it and revise and rewrite it.
Hopefully getting you to the realization that your imagination is not something that's fake.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think it's difficult when one uses other people's opinions of oneself as a way to measure how much progress one's made.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a big topic, comparison. I think, like I was talking, as long as it's not vindictive towards yourself and others, what else do we have with one another but to kind of compare? We kind of reject that thing as if it's a morally right, and I get that. We should never necessarily compare yourself to a vindictive degree, as in like, I'm not good enough because I'm not meeting up to what I see of that person. But it's natural to compare and contrast ourselves. If we can see that as in like, ooh, that person fascinates me, or oh, I'm inspired by that. I wonder if I could, what it would look like for me to reach that level. How would I represent that through myself? Not try to put yourself in someone else's body and be like, I'm supposed to be that person. Or I'm supposed to look that way. That's not going to do you very good. But to compare and contrast yourself for good leverage on your person, on your ego, to go higher, to be better, I think that's actually a very healthy and decent thing.
For sure.
Yeah.
So a lot of mine, even though I have refined what I want to do and created some more clarity in what the next steps for me as a person and a flow artist are, for me to be this that I've been building, most of it was more life related than specifically flow arts related. Yes, there's a lot of things that I've made clarity on, and how these are the choreographies that I have, this is the partner that I perform with, and so on. This is where I'm traveling to. This is an idea of where I'm going to be, how I'm going to do it, when I'm going to do it. I haven't given it that definite point of this is where I am at that point.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's like mostly like the foundational clarity, like weeding through the things that I want to remove in order to just leave the core things that I want to build.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead and read it. Let's hear it.
So I didn't print out the
That's okay.
the page.
That's
so
okay.
I kind of wrote, for the first one, for the physical attributes, I wrote bullet point, and then from there I wrote paragraphs. And some of it linked back on itself. And it was mostly like the overall life. I find it quite difficult to almost like I have to justify my own journey to people, because no one will ever understand it like I do.
Right, of course not, but they can understand what it feels like to go through this process that you're going through. And you won't necessarily know that until you have the compare and contrast. You've made it over through this checkpoint and you've succeeded past it. And then you can look back onto it. And then if you take students underneath who have a similar experience, you'll know, no, I won't be able to relate to you specifically, but I do relate to that feeling specifically, which I do relate to the feeling that you're going through. And no, none of us are going to be able to understand you, but can't you realize too, you don't understand you yet. These exercises are helping you to understand yourself and where you are, who you are becoming, who you are now, even more specifically, so that it becomes that much more reachable and tangible, rather than you letting your mind and imagination spread you out too thin, thinking that no one understands me, and just recognize it's okay for you nor anyone to understand you. In fact, none of us are going to understand ourselves until our dying day, and then maybe even then not. But the more we practice it, the more we understand where our head and our heart and our environment all agree into this creation that is yourself and your life. It is a practice, and that practice may never be done. So you may never know, but we're getting just one more little hint and one more little breadcrumb and one more little affirmation of feeling like, yes, I both feel nervous about this, I feel vulnerable about this, but something about this drives my spirit. It drives me, I have to do this, I have to become this. And this is the type of thing. You're expressing it to yourself is one thing, but you're expressing it to other people is a wonderful thing to have accountability, even if no one ever actually holds you accountable for it.
The thing is, I'm always holding myself accountable.
Yeah.
And there are certain people in my life who, like, the way that they perceive me makes an impact. And, like, I don't want to go too personal with this, but it is something to work through. So there's always more than one can write, and one has to call it at some point.
Sure.
I wasn't able to give real in-depth details. I should condense it all into one paragraph across each thing, and like almost have a story that I can reread to myself every day.
Sure.
And I will do that, and perhaps I'll send that to you when it's done.
Okay, please.
But for the last one, as a person, I've become a kind-hearted, well-balanced, and overall well-rounded human who loves to live, learn, teach, and share. I spend regular time in nature and have a healthy relationship with both my professional and personal life. I live a calm and beautiful life of regular activity where I work on my skills and my business goals daily, spend time in nature by myself and with those whom I love, keeping intimate time for my personal practice of yoga and meditation.
Nice. So let me ask you something that maybe no one ever asked me. Does that feel specific to you?
No.
Oh, it doesn't?
No.
Okay.
I mean, this is natural.
Yeah.
It's not specific.
I see that's who you are.
Yeah.
And there was a time in my life where I would express like that, and it felt very specific to me because I had images in my head of what they were, but everyone was like, that sounds nice, but I don't see it, like, what do you mean when you say this, or what specifically does this look like? It's a very nice from your heart kind of thing, and that's good. That's where it should originate from. But when you start speaking about this and you know that time is going to pass and experience is going to accumulate, what is it going to specifically look like when you reach a checkpoint or a destination that is going to turn into a checkpoint, so that you have specifics for yourself and for other people who are going to help you to get there.
Yeah.
Because the only way I say that we end up understanding who we are is by learning about how to define it and go through the humility and the cultivation of courage practice that it takes to get there. Because what you're essentially you're saying in a matter of way is, this is the lie that's true. I'm going to create this truth. And I'm going to create it right now. And I'm going to be specific. And yeah, maybe you're going to roll your eyes at me. Or maybe you're going to be like, clearly this is not true yet. But to me, the real me, in here, not up here, but in here, already knows this to be true about myself, and it humbles me and it brings me to the point of happy tears to say it out loud or even write it on paper, let alone actually get to the result. And that's the real power behind the future observations exercise that I often tell people when I'm guiding them, is you should be looking to get one of two or maybe even both experiences, emotional experiences, which is either one, being like, wow, and happy tears, like have the emotional response internally that as soon as you visualize it, see it, feel it, it brings about happy tears. Or that's never going to happen. There's no fucking way. I'm going to write it down and I'm going to roll my eyes at myself and be like, I don't even know why I'm doing this fucking exercise. This is stupid. Those two are very powerful emotions that give you the leverage that you need to prove to your ego, to your limited self, that actually, yes, this is possible, and I can't get it out of my head, and I can't not achieve it. And then you see the miraculousness that is conscious creation, be it achievement, that something you had to do, or manifestation, something that is just done, and hopefully someday those two come into one, and you feel like your higher self or your highest self. Mm-hmm. But the only way I know to train you right now is to get you to be more specific.
So the last page ended up being a summary because I mentioned so many of the details in the previous paragraphs that I would run the risk of repeating myself too much.
Well, just say one of the specific things. What sort of set and circumstances? Can you tell me about the building? Can you tell me about the show? Can you tell me something that in time you'll be able to provide hard evidence, like this is the place, this is the thing, this was the gig, here's the video,
it's
here's
much
the
more
pinpoint.
Broad. It's more broad.
Well, let's practice. Can you? Yeah. I mean, you see some images in your head.
Okay, so on the physical side, I can bring something back there. So the first point is I have high quality fire and LED performance equipment, especially designed to complement my specific skill and style. So I know what that means to me because the moment I say that, all of these things I visualize, and I can see myself using them. But it still is more broad. Yeah,
sure. And so I'm just asking, would you go through the humility of writing out more of the specifics? Even though you know it, doesn't mean that anybody else is going to.
Make a vision board.
Make a vision board, but even just as easy as writing it down so that you could type it out to someone. Because something that I've learned through all of this experience and going around the world is you're going to have to go through and practice not getting stuck in the law of familiarity, if you've ever heard the expression before. And that is, you've gone through something so many times, you're over it. I'm tired of explaining it again. Yeah. But you're going to have to go through the humility of explaining it over and over and over again with a big fucking smile on your face, and if you possibly can, develop that pull more of that original spirit that you had out of it, because you're going to have to keep re-going over it again and again and again and again. I can't tell you how many times I've told the story of what Catherine and I have done so far on this journey, how many people we've had to tell it to, and how many times we've had to develop that same enthusiasm over and over and over again, hundreds of times. Sure. Yeah. And not just with this journey, with the flow arts, with the yoga, with so many other things that, and say it not just as it's been in the times of having to repeat myself, but also in the times as it's going to be. And giving as many, and it takes time, it's a skill. It's not something that I think is going to come natural to you. But if you can push yourself to develop that skill and learn how to explain things to a person completely unfamiliar to flow arts or to all the other things that you want to do. Like imagine talking to a 5-year-old about it. And you want to give them really dumb, ridiculous amounts of details, while at the same time say it with a sense of like, yeah! Those two things together, that skill is what we're starting to develop here. And where you're at is where most people start. Very broad, very general. And they're very good things. Yeah, it's for yourself. But if you recognize that myself is not Halen. Myself is Halen in an environment that's constantly changing inside and out. And the only way that the environment can come to assist Halen in the achievement of these things is if he's able to communicate them. we're not all perfectly telepathic mind readers yet. Maybe someday we will be, but it's not yet. So you cannot expect people to read your mind.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even the universe to read your mind. Even though it does know, still it gives you the free will to be as specific or broad about it as you want, but it's going to give you a direct reflection of what you're giving it.
Yeah.
So let's keep going and go back around. Let yourself think, and if you think about a few specifics, and it can be, it doesn't have to be big things. You don't have to impress us. You don't have to be anything. Just paint any sort of amount of picture in my mind, more than what I've already seen of your social media. Because I already know that you're a professional flow artist. I already know that you're doing very well and you're building things and stuff like that. Like, I can see it. But what I'm asking you is, what is 5 years from now, Halen, going to be experiencing? Or 10 years from now, Halen? Because I see the stuff today and it's great, but I don't know what the evolution of the stuff looks like. I could predict what it would be for me, Jesse, but that's not saying what it's going to be for you.
Yeah.
And so this is an opportunity for you to have an ease in the achievement, because you have a team of people, as well as an ease of the manifestation. You have a greater conscious self. You have the greater Halen self here present with Halen, Halen the brain. There's the smaller collective conscious present, and you get an opportunity to paint the picture inside the collective conscious minds from the origin of it, which is your mind and your heart. And that is a process both of being able to achieve something in like an intelligible kind of businessy way, like we're going to do a deal, as well as possibly experience the manifestation. Because once it's in the collective mind, then the vibration starts to shift. You know that other people have been witness to what you said. And that in and of itself creates an accountability partner. Yeah, yeah. So it's really an opportunity.
Yeah.
We're kind of in a manifestation circle unofficially.
For sure. I think what would have helped me get more context in how to prepare this is, in 5 years, this is how I am. And then I write it from that perspective, as opposed to like, oh, this is me, this is how I live. Like that for me felt much more broad.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Something that I will note and possibly add to it, because it's not necessarily meant to be in 5 years. It's
or
more
even
like
in 2 years, you know?
Well, it's like a 1 month, 1 year, 5
Yeah.
years, 10 years kind of thing. Like short, medium, and long term.
Yeah.
Because the thing about it is, I don't like to put a date on it, because you don't necessarily know that the thing that you expect to achieve in 5 years is only going to take you 2 months. It happens. But the thing that you think is going to take you 2 months actually takes you 5 years. So it's kind of hard to put a date on it all the time. It's more just like, this is developing, breaking the origin of this practice, which actually started as future projections. You called it what you project. The way I see it is, we start with goals, which are big maybes, to future projections, which is, I'm going to do my best, to future observations, which is, this has already happened, and I'm just walking into it. And I know that you're not necessarily going to reach that point where I'm at, but I'm going to hold space that that's where you're at, because I know how powerful your mind is, even if you don't yet.
For sure.
And I'm only going to hold space for that and respect you as the master you are becoming and already are. Just going through the natural human process. You're how old?
25.
25, okay. So the way that I think about 25, the brain has stopped developing, so the internal universe has just stopped growing. And now you're in the process of moving your nervous system around manually. It's like it happens naturally, anything, but at 25, mid-20s more or less, that's scientifically when they say the brain, the nervous system has stopped growing. And I think about the brain and the nervous system as the internal universe. So the universe internally has stopped growing, and now the adult self is going to learn about how to start moving things around and changing the universe. And then at 30, at your Seattle return, have everything go to shit maybe. And
Not me.
But serious,
wait, who knows? Who knows?
I hear you.
I can
Whoa.
say 25, quarter life crisis, baby.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, mid-20s to early 30s is definitely that often. But it's just, anyways, that's another big topic. Anyway, just consider that, and if you want to share something more specific, great. If you don't, no problem.
There are plenty of things I could share, but let's not go into that now. We can maybe
Sure.
talk
Yeah.
another time.
All right, so continue on, Roxanne.
Cute. Physical things.
It doesn't have to be. It can be anything that you want.
I don't know, this is so exciting. I actually encountered her on Caitlin's page just like before you gave the assignment, and I saw she had written the like.
Okay.
Oh, right.
Like in 3 years, I will be able to do splits in all directions. Like there's literally a thing I took a screenshot of, and I was like, holy shit, that's so cool. Then you guys bought this, so just thank you for the concept.
Yeah, sure.
Because getting it into reality is a bit tricky. Okay, my next thing is propane bubbles. It's coming. Fuck yes, I have a friend called Jesse as well, who is a circus friend, and he sometimes does like small fire things. So we're gonna meet up next week and
Propane bubbles, what is this?
like so you spraying propane into.
Oh, yeah.
So because I do a lot of sort of burlesque fire,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like a massive crowd wower, and it's just awesome. So
Yeah, I would love to
we're
do that.
Yeah,
I've seen that a couple times.
So he was also looking for like podium powder or something.
Yeah.
And he uses that, and so we've been friends for ages, but never like really worked together. So we're gonna meet up, and he'll be like, "Cool, watch me do this. Be my spotter. I'll be yours."
So you're gonna be a propane bubble igniter.
So yeah, that's like
That's cool.
physical thing experience. I guess that is the next
Yeah.
thing I want to do. I want to apply to Wintergarten Berlin for next year for the festival.
Okay.
And go.
This is more what I'm going, like something
Yeah.
that isn't a guarantee just yet.
Yeah. This year I want to get the crown for the best debut at Baby Grand Burlesque Festival on the 2nd of December.
Uh-huh. Wow. Okay.
Hell yeah.
And
Nice.
then
Now we're talking
next year-
specific.
Next year, for hot licks choreography, I want to do that. And I think I don't know when, but I want to have my Schengen passport because I have dual Portuguese. I have Portuguese ancestry, so I want to get that passport and
A Portuguese Portugal
yes,
passport.
and so it will be part of like Schengen, and then just that's what I want to do.
Okay.
Um,
Nice. All right, I appreciate that. Let's start
Yeah.
with that. That's a good
cool.
amount. That's a good amount of things we can all sink our teeth into
Okay,
too.
so-
So good job with that.
yeah, wish me luck.
Oh, we're gonna do much more than that. So
It's already happened.
We're watching.
yeah.
Put on a good show.
Wonderful.
Now I'm gonna teach you how luck is not a thing. Fortune is a thing. That's why when people often say good luck, I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But what I say to people instead is best of fortune, which means I know you can create this. May it go about as smoothly as possible. Good luck is like maybe not to me. Good luck, maybe. Maybe you have bad luck, maybe you have good luck. It's a chance. Roll the dice.
You got this.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm like, you can make a fortune. You can create your own fortune. You can look into your crystal ball. You can lay your tarot cards down. You can create it, right? So it's best of fortune. Yeah. If it's meant for you, if it's best for you, it will happen. If it's not, then it won't. And if it's not, but you insist that it is, still it will happen. You know what I mean? Like no matter what, it will happen perfectly for you. So, yeah.
I was thinking about tarot cards just then. when you
Really?
just mentioned.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I am like, it's not an excuse, but I'm dyslexic. So for me, whenever I write something down, it comes from my analytical mind, and I have problems feeling and like having these written. I can write like fucking essays, but what I tend to sometimes use is tarot cards and look at the past, the now, and the future. It's 3 cards. And figure out like what the subconscious mind tells me. So I'm not reading the future, I'm looking at associations with the cards that I have and the subconscious mind that like okay, this is like, and sometimes you can do that also, like what happens if I do this and what happens if I don't do this. So one of the things that I visualize is like, if I don't work, if I'm not gonna, the tower's gonna fall. Like if I'm gonna keep on this level and stay in my bed, I will probably live 12 years and like die.
Uh-huh.
So for me, I didn't do this exercise, so I will just do it at the top of my head.
Sure.
Physically, what I want to do is create an abundance of passive income. And in my cards, they're already dealt. I have all the generational wealth and all the things. Everything is like, for me, I'm in a good spot. I just need to act and do these things.
Can you possibly give us specific on how much is an abundance of passive income to you?
Yes, so I have 1,500 euros a month right now from the government.
That's passive, technically.
Passive, yes. And I can generate 2,000 euros 4,000 euros a year extra passive income from my capital.
Okay.
And I can probably, what I want to do is invest it into a couple lands, probably one in Sweden, one in Portugal, or one in Africa. I want to have physically like a camper van and a tiny house. I already visualize how it is. I know what I want. I'm not going to go into details there. What I want to experience is I want to experience going with my camper van from due to having my like abundance of financials like done. I can then travel from Rainbow Gathering to Burn to BDSM event together with a girlfriend that is also like passionate about what I do. So I have a body that is like that's synergistic. And as a person, I want to master myself, master my mind, my body, and my craft in order to, go forward. Because one of the things that strikes fear in me is visualizing also what I can become if I don't do it. So
it's called using the carrot and the stick.
Yes. Yeah. So that is one of the things that's like, okay. So in short, that will be, the 60-second like breakdown. And then, I don't know if you want to act more specific, but that would be like...
That's great. Spot on. Yeah. It shows too, because if I were where I'm at doing business and someone were to prescribe to me with a certain amount of skills, which you've already developed, you've obviously thought about this a lot, you're doing business already and the stuff that you want to do, you have it readily available for you. And that's great. So that you're able to spot on put that, I would just suggest similar to Halen is get it even more specific. Because what I relate to you, that I'm also refining myself, is the practice of less words, more meaning. Get things specific down, because I know that that's a reflective of the challenges that you have mentally. There's a super amount of what I used to call spinning thoughts. So much conscious energy going around and round and round. And if you're not careful, it causes great anxiety and exhausts you. You can practice that by expressing out all of your stuff on paper. Handwritten, texted, typed, whatever. It doesn't matter. But then just throw it away. Just get it out of your head and see what's left. And see if you can put it down into just a paragraph or two that's very specific, that gets you very clear. You could talk about it for many paragraphs because it could turn into a whole story. And if you get the opportunity or the stage or the audience to present it to, practice the storytelling aspect. But till then, get it as specific as possible so that as quickly as possible you could explain it to a small amount of people and keep their attention.
So again, like I was talking about this business model canvas, which I didn't do yet. One of the things that I can propose to other people is like work play on that specific aspect. From my perspective, I have some like insight on how to do it, but it's also for me a stick to actually write down my own business plan. So that's one of the things. And the other thing that I wanted to share is that instead of like I did this, it's not a practice, but I just had like a little card from Flow Arts with a beautiful like picture that was like a cartoon of a red-headed girl with a staff. And I had that in front of my camper van just as a visualization of what I want to have. And for me, sometimes that visual aspect, because I cannot see more than 3 letters in my head visually, for me it is, because I'm dyslexic, I think that these visual aspects also almost like I would like to have like almost like paintings or drawings of what I can visualize on rather than the words. So I do not understand that writing it down gets it out of it, but I think that for me, I think that I will also want to have like pictures of how.
Okay, yeah.
Like, because then I can also visualize, okay, this is, or a mood board or stuff.
Yeah, okay, yeah. What I mean by write it down, it can come out in garbly-gook. It can come out in pictures and scribbles and doodles and words that don't even make sense, stuff like that. It just helps get it from here to there, and then it's out after a number of times. When I went through counseling and was going through massive amounts of energy shift in my mind, that was the most valuable thing that my counselor told me. Just write it out. Get it out of your head. Because it gave me so much peace of mind and clarity in the long run. But I think that you really explain things and you communicate and have your shit together way even better than maybe you give yourself credit for. So give yourself credit for it. But I think we can all visualize that, and let's keep going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So I want to be booked for shows and performances.
Okay, really quickly, I'm spotting you. You don't want to. I am. I am being booked.
You're on demand.
I literally saw
Start
you
practice.
randomly on like some random international person's profile. And I was like, how the fuck did you get there? Okay, so please, yeah.
Okay, so I want to be paid for.
Catching yourself there.
Jeez.
Start. Just picture.
I
I'm
get
gonna
paid.
Practice
Yeah.
this. I am getting paid
Yeah,
for shows.
I am getting paid for shows and performing internationally. And
Where internationally? What country are you going to? What city?
most likely somewhere in Europe.
Okay.
Um,
Getting more specific. Yeah. Sure.
I mean,
Well, I mean, when you picture
So-
yourself, or if you saw another florist, just have a practice of what immediately comes to your mind. Where are you right now?
yeah. So
What does it look like? If I ask you what city, what's the first city that comes to mind? It doesn't actually have to pan out.
let's say Boom Festival.
Moon Festival.
And
Okay.
Ozora.
Okay.
And so
There we go. Now it's something we can sink our teeth
all the other
into.
flow festivals.
Okay. Yep.
And yeah, perform there, teach there, and also like get paid to make videos of other people's props.
Okay. Okay. Sweet. And probably test them too and keep them too.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So you're like me, you want to get paid to rep props. You're like, no, I don't buy props. I get paid to rep props. That's a really perfect future observation to have, yeah. Cool. Let's keep going.
Yeah, so for me, I almost want to keep it broad because it feels kind of earlier days, and so if I'm too specific, it feels too like idealizing almost. It's just, you know what I mean? Like too. I don't have enough clarity of where it's going to put down things specifically, but I do want to develop sort of in present tense. Developed a flow career where I've got gigs coming in, I do performances, I get into big performances, and maybe well-known people invite me in for collaborations. I think for me it's like kind of a recognition thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, then it's at a point where I can sort of travel with that, and take that around, and kind of, yeah.
I can see you also incorporating your podcast into it.
Yes. So, it's in that journey, the people I meet, and if I'm traveling, even then I can actually find good people to bring onto the podcast, because that's also important to me.
Because that's a way in which you can start to incorporate both and make longer lasting connections. Because you and I will have a strong connection because of that podcast that we did. And you have a strong connection with me because you were attracted to my lifestyle. So that's a good way of starting to get in more specifics. I think that where you're at is fine if you feel comfortable with the broadness. But my exercise, what I was doing just with Herman, is right now, where do you picture it? You don't have to decide that that's where it is, but you have an image in your head. And if you were to go deeper into that image, even if it just came out in a way in which you're like, I picture here, but I don't know why. Or I see this thing. Maybe you don't even know the place, but you can see the venue that you're at. You can see the people that you're at, and you can start defining and writing out what you see in your head on paper, making it a little bit more specific. It doesn't necessarily matter that it pans exactly into that. So if you're nervous about getting your hopes up or something like that, that's not the idea we're going for. It's just a matter of getting as clear as you possibly can, because as I'm telling you guys, it's a skill. This conscious manifestation is not something to be afraid about. It's not something to think you don't have to commit to. It's a skill that is absolutely worth developing. And so we're starting with it. This is the first time I've asked you, so it's perfectly all right. Most people do start pretty broad, but I challenge you to get more specific. Like you could add, oh, and I do my podcast with the top tier level performers that I perform with, or something like that. That would be another specific detail. Or I learn from this, that, or another person, someone that you've already learned from, or I meet this person and perform with them. It can be any amount of details that you want, even if it doesn't end up happening. So long as you're beginning to develop the skill of head to hand to paper or head to hand to text. Preferably hand to paper, by the way. The reason why I have you guys print this out and write by hand is I think there's something more to writing things out than typing things out. Not to say that is a absolute, but it definitely helps. So can you give me any more specifics than that, like with just the picture that you see in your head as it relates to being a professional artist?
I think there's things I like the idea of. I suppose in a more personal capacity, it's the idea of kind of traveling around doing shows and things. But at a show, like if I watch like someone on YouTube and I see a certain type of performance, and that's quite exciting. And I think I quite appreciate, I guess, the skill aspect of things. So when I see something quite technical, and I'm just like, wow, how, for me that's cool. So to be in that position is a nice place. Would be a nice place to be.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of, I guess, taking it to like that kind of very high level. So that's the art itself, and just having the ability to kind of go around doing that and being able to do that kind of solely.
Cool.
And then with that, definitely kind of the podcast. The podcast side is getting access to people, and I think through the experiences developing my own insights that help me create better content, and on the fire side, better performance.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Then I invite you to, first of all, breathe. I feel the importance that this has to you through your nervous energy. I associate nervousness directly correlated to importance, to the point where I feel the emotion welling up inside you of the nervousness of this. And I think something that we're trained as human beings is to not get our hopes up, as in, don't express your emotions, don't express your dreams, don't get specific on any of that stuff if it makes you feel scared. And I invite you to start tiptoeing into where you feel scared. What tricks did you see that you want to be able to perform? What impresses you about that video that you saw that you would like to emulate? If you have to, go back to it. If they don't explain in the video description, send them a message and ask them, what did you do at 1 minute and 23 seconds here? And see if you can get a response so that you have a name to that thing. Because once you have specifics on what it is that you want to do and where you want to do it and how you want to do it, it becomes more and more real. And that might intimidate you even more so, because there's something that they don't teach. We're all talking about achieving our dream job of being a professional performance, but you don't actually think, shit, what if I actually do achieve this?
It's scary.
There is on one side a motivator, because we're trained to be like, achieve your dreams and stuff like that. But there's also an intimidation factor of, shit, what does it mean if I achieve my dreams? What will that mean? Like that unknown, that what if I actually am successful at what I do? Then what? There's an intimidation factor, and I think it's very actually good. It's healthy of the ego, inversely. Because your full potential, not only could you be the next huge flow artist, you could be the next Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. You could be the next Hitler. None of us know of what our full potential means. And so it is very scary and is worth being very nervous and honorable about, tentative even, like slow stepping. I'm a type of person, I jump with both feet in. And that's pushed a lot of people away from me, because most people aren't like that. Most people are smart, and it's good to slowly wade into the pool and check into it. or the strangest thing, that I don't have the bone in my body. I love jumping off rocks into deep bodies of water. I always have. And when I see someone standing on top contemplating for half an hour, I'm just like, just fucking jump, you know? Like, but to them, it means a tremendous amount. It's something that I don't understand. And for them, I bet they're not just contemplating, what if I get hurt? They're also contemplating, what if I don't get hurt? You know, what if I'm successful? Does that mean I'm going to keep pushing the limits for myself until I do get hurt? Because that's what's been my experience. I keep pushing myself until I do get hurt. And I learned from that. I don't hurt myself anymore, but I did have to push myself to almost near-death experiences. So it's good to be aware of not over-exacerbating, but I'm inviting you and pressuring you in this exercise to push yourself, if you haven't already, just a little bit further, which is as easy as, now that you're becoming a professional flow artist, you are a professional flow artist, you go into like Rwanda's and say, hey, would you make me a video? Or at the very least, just see if you can make contact with that professional and say, hey, I really enjoyed your video. See what they say back.
Yeah.
Usually they'll be like, hey, thanks very much. And then you're like, wow, something about connecting. I just had a very short Facebook conversation with Jessie Spin yesterday. And just in that, I'm like, fuck yeah, Jessie Spin knows I exist, you know? Because we both have the same fans. But hers, actually, she doesn't have the fans. The post is about hers missing. And I was like, oh shit, that sucks, you know? But I left a message. Who knows how much she received it or how much, went right by. But something about being able to connect to a person that you admire and know that they know that you exist and that you had some sort of energy exchange makes you feel that much more like level with them, which makes you feel that much more confident to maybe ask another question.
Yeah.
I've literally connected with every single one of the professional flow artists besides Nick Woolsey at this point. All of them. And I've worked with some of them now too, which is really cool. At least all the ones that I know of. No, I haven't connected with Tim Goddard. Have I? Maybe I did. No. Anyways, when I was working with Sacred Flow Art, I started to reach out to all these different people because I was like, this is pretty cool because all these people are famous, but they're not really famous.
Yeah.
So they're not.
They're well known though.
They're well known. They're well known amongst the community.
Yeah.
But
And
not
that's,
really.
that's a type of fame.
Yeah, that is a type of fame. And I was able to connect with almost every single one of them, even Drex, even though at a certain point he ignored me. But Nick Woolsey never responded back to my stuff. I'm not sure why. He was going through quite a shift because I kind of connected with him when he was like going out of the scene or deciding he wanted to do something else. I'm not exactly sure. Something was going on in his life. But what it really helped me to do was to feel like I was able to already step up and meet someone at least for a moment that I admired and that I wanted to strive to become more like eye to eye. And they didn't look down on me like I was lesser than them. And that made me feel equal to them. And that made me feel like a professional flow artist in that very moment. So if in one way, shape, or form, I think that you should step out and get even a little bit more specific with yourself. And even if you don't believe you're going to reach it to some sort of great outstanding level, pretend just for a moment what you will. Give yourself permission to dream and believe in yourself like a kid, and trust that you're not going to be punished for anything. For going after your dreams, you guys, like the reason why I'm in this gig, the reason why I want to give this away for as affordable as possible to get as many people as coming as possible is because I, without a doubt, know that all of our dreams are not what we deserve. They're in-own. And in-own is a word made up by another speaker, which means it's your birthright. It's your birthright to experience your existence and your dream how you would like to. If only you would have the courage to learn how to admit what is that dream, or figure it out. For some people they know, and for most of us we have to figure it out. But we can figure it out if we put the pressure on ourselves to show up and get as specific about it as possible, as soon as possible. So many different avenues that will lead to it, but only taking those avenues will lead to it. Hanging back and kind of like planning out the route and stuff like that, which we're about to go into, it is a good step. But taking one step on that route, one more step into the unknown, one more step closer, you will look back in retrospect, I guarantee, and be like, as scared as I was, as hard as that was, man, do I feel alive. I feel alive from that experience. And that to me is totally what life's about. So come back to you at another point, maybe today, maybe another day, and see if you can get even more specific as to what do you see in your head, like what would be your ideal, like perfect, because that's how I'm able to train you. If it's too broad, too general, it's hard for me to direct, and I end up talking like this about how to. I only direct how to get yourself to direct your dream a little bit more specific, so that we can all see it, feel it, and if possible, aid you in that process. Cool. All right. Last but not least.
Okay, is there a specific one?
Something that is not a guarantee. Something that is not something that you already have planned. It's on your schedule. It's a few weeks from now. Something that isn't for sure yet as specific as possible. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Something that makes you feel a little nervous to admit, maybe.
Oh no!
Yes!
I don't want to.
Of course. But do you have the little subtle?
I didn't even write it down.
Okay.
That thing.
Okay.
No. Yes. Tell me again. The little subtle.
Do you have the little? Your brain says no. Your nervousness says no. But does your heart, like, is it whispering? Yeah, say that. That's it. That's the one. Because I know mine does. We all want to know what that is now.
No.
If you trust us to know it.
No, but in a way, it's like kind of like a fantasy, kind of like
Yes,
I'm like
exactly.
already doing a lot of stuff, but this is kind of like a wow.
But that's where you need
and it's kind of
exactly.
like, there isn't someone doing that.
That's the stuff. That's the stuff. And none of us are going to hold you accountable for that. We might bring it up someday, but we're not going to like hold it over your head. But that's really, I think, where your gaps are right now, from what I've witnessed from you as a person, as well as on your videos.
Yeah.
You need that fantasy energy. You don't necessarily need the fantasy itself per se. Maybe you do. But what you need is to start to practice the fantasy energy. And that's what's going to come through on your videos, and that's what's going to get people to show up to your shows, and that's what's going to get you the money to get your fantasy, or the resources, connections, whatever. It does. The origin of our reality is in fantasy. It's not real.
Yeah, I think to a degree. I mean, I've started like 13 years ago already, so now I've already like reached a lot of my goals. Of course, there's always going to be more stuff. I can branch out each one of those goals even more.
Of course, it's never ending.
But yeah, if I have to think about something that really like kind of scares me but excites me, but could potentially be and is also part of, but maybe
Shit, I wish I had this on video right now, because this is like viral gold. Did I just someone have a camera right now, because we're all like, yeah.
So kind of I see myself as like creating being someone that's taking flow arts, kind of like make like little like completely like being okay. I'm gonna describe it as the Bjork of flow art.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So like Kosh's character, like flow art. I don't know. I'm seeing like videos. I'm seeing a show, but like. I see a show, which is one thing, and then I see a character, which is like another thing, because the character could be, it's like Lady Gaga, she has all these like characters, but she has specific kind of shows. So the show, which what I want to do as my own personal solo performance, because I always work in groups and pieces mainly, not always, but my show is one of the most expensive shows in the world to book.
Okay. How expensive?
No, it's like royal, like the royals, the like
Oh, okay,
the
so that-
cream
oh,
of the,
okay.
like I will perform one day on the moon when they build the station there.
Hell yeah, now we're talking.
When,
Shit, I gotta
when the
re-examine my
cruise
future
comes out.
aspirations. She's going to
Okay,
space.
that's like first, like,
Yes.
Actually, I do have the
Why
goal
not?
of
First interplanetary flow tour.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Not that
Like that
cheap.
we're in 2037.
Yeah.
They're going to shoot up the first outer space hotel, and I will be performing there.
That's awesome.
Nice.
At the opening ceremony, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm saying all these things. It's like I learned something from Richard Branson. He said, "Always fake it till you make it."
I was gonna say, 'cause
And
it already
it's
feels
that,
real
you
to
know,
me.
Because
That's
it's
good.
like it's also I'm having fun with it. You know, it's fun
That's
to
cool.
think like
Yeah,
that
definitely.
extreme. But I think the reason why it's difficult for me to say is because I don't want to appear like.
You don't.
like
You
this,
don't.
I
You
think
don't.
so much about myself, and that's why when I made your first video that you sent us, I was like, wow, I was thinking about saying so many amazing things about myself, and then I was like, oh no, I don't want to appear like I'm like overconfident. So I think that's maybe my challenge, and why maybe I also work in a group in the theater. It doesn't have to be me.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, it's us and it's this thing and it's great.
Mm-hmm.
But I also see that I kind of lack maybe a sense of confidence in not to talk about the theater, but to talk about me or to I don't know, maybe it's like
I call it
this
inverse modesty. As in, you're doing your best to be modest, but at a certain point, you really got to tell the legend. You really have to tell yourself, internally and externally, who you are, who you know you are, and learn how to not have shame over that. Even if someone's like, "Ugh, she's so unmodest. What a show off." And you got to be like, that's not how I intended it. I understand how that's how you received it, but that's not exactly how I intended it. Because the way that I see it is there's underconfident, there's overconfident, and then there's beyond confident. I am beyond confident. I had to experiment. I've always been a very confident person. I was just fortunately born with that bone in my body, but I did have to develop it still nonetheless. It did kick my ass and did humble me many times. But what I was able to achieve by practicing overconfidence or beyond, or going beyond what is modestly the correct amount of confidence we're supposed to have, is this innate ability to be beyond confident. I understand myself. I'm at peace. I'm at peace with who I am, even if that is going to be celebrated or cursed by X amount of people. Because something I realized going through college is no matter what any of us achieve, whether you are very famous or not famous at all, successful, not successful, you're going to have a small amount of people who care about what you do in the positive. You're going to have a small amount of people who care about you in the negative, as in they don't like you. And you're going to have the vast amount of people who don't even know who you are, even if they do, because they're too busy worried about themselves to even give anybody else the time of day. They got other shit going on, right? So if you just really honor that small amount of people that honor you both in the positive as the negative, and you position yourself neutrally in between them, as in you're not moved by people's compliments, nor are you moved by their insults, but you're grounded with who you are, just as who you are, and you're totally neutral and zen about that, you're untouchable. And you just get to live your life as beyond confident. This is just who I am. And you have to, some people who don't have enough ego about them have to stoke their ego up, and some people who are afraid about having too much of an ego about it need to blow through the roof of that fear. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, it's just a fear that you're having. It's a projection of your mind telling you how is proper to behave or how is proper to be, and it's bullshit. But you won't know that it's bullshit until you push beyond that and express to all of us clearly that you're destined for great things, and we applaud that and celebrate that about you, whether you make it to the moon or not. That you planted the idea in our minds is success enough.
Shit for the man.
I'm kind of seeing it now, you know.
I'm feeling it like shit now. That's where my goal is at. You just helped me to lift my bar,
Yeah.
not higher, but
Go to
more
the moon.
uniquely, you know.
Yeah.
And by the way, I do have the future observation that I will be one of the first, if not the first people, to create content on the inner Earth.
Nice.
There's a legend of have you ever heard of Lemuria?
Oh yeah.
There's Hollow Earth. There is a civilization happening hundreds of miles or hundreds of kilometers beneath our feet right now.
There is.
Dinosaurs still exist down there.
Yeah, it's where the lizard people hang out.
Lizard people, aliens.
I didn't know that.
Hitler's still alive and he's down there. You know, there's that's where it's who knows, you know, fact from fiction. But I absolutely believe that there's so much more underneath
I
our
hope
feet.
so.
Just
I
like
really
there's so
hope
much
there
more
is. I
happening
wanna see
up above
what it
us that
looks
we're
like.
not aware of. Yeah.
Can you go there?
Yeah. And I readily admit, you know, and I even got in trouble. Like I had a meeting with the like Herman was there with someone is really upset by me, leaving me bad emails and bad reviews, and even calling up all the Animus group and being like, watch out for Jesse Hart and Catherine. They're fucking crazy people. I don't know. I mean, I have an educated guess, but at this point, I've received so many different little bits of partial truths that this person must relate to my past in some way, or they are some sort of private investigator and they're talking to people and they're just getting copious amounts of like the good and the bad that people have sent me, and this person is just collecting as much of this bad gossip as possible and just like to me, it's a sign. It's just where I'm at with the universe testing me, testing my
But
fears,
it's
testing
actually, listen, it's for someone to take so much of their energy to put into you is like a compliment. It's like, wow, that's so important. Wow.
And I do recognize that, but also instilling a sense of confidence, because I've been born with a guilty conscience. Yeah, but you can replace that by developing discipline. I don't really have a guilty conscience anymore, but I did for a long time. And this brings this back up in me where I'm like, oh, I don't want people to think this way about me, and this isn't true, and I don't want other people to read this shit and think that it's true. But at the end of the day, I realized if I do nothing about this, which is simultaneously the hardest and easiest thing to do, this person is just going to fall into the pit of their own abyss, and they're just actually adding energy to me. Yep. It might be negative energy, but something I recognize about something, which I will work with you guys further if you want to, is negative energy is just as valuable as positive energy.
There's no such thing as bad publicity.
Yeah, exactly. Even if there is bad publicity, all of it is attracting more currency, which is attention, more eyes, more ears on you, more energy. And if you can learn about how to transmute, talking with Ron about that, transmuting a negative perspective into a positive one. Because all of us believe that our egos are right in their perspective. But then if we're up against someone who thinks we're wrong, who's right and who's wrong? Really? Who's taking the high road? Who's taking the low road? And I can tell you from my experience, none of us are absolutely right and none of us are absolutely wrong. I would say those that are the most right about us are those who are able to see the same situation from multiple points of view as if those multiple points of view were our own. As if we actually understand what it's like to walk a mile in lots of people's shoes, even though we haven't. So, because what that does is it eliminates the hate. It eliminates the vindictiveness. It eliminates feeling like the world is against you or life is not something that's happening at you, but happening with you, for you. You know, being able to develop that. So wherever you feel that fear, that excitement, or that bashfulness, I say actually embrace it. Do it. Do it if you're scared to do it. It's a calculated risk. The only challenge that we stand, and that I still stand in business, is how much is my reputation really that important? You know, but then I look back and I'm like, I remember my first political memory is watching George Bush versus Al Gore in the presidential debate and being like, there's no fucking way that guy's going to win. And he's reelected and all this stuff. He's a complete idiot as running the presidency. And I'm just like, how the fuck is this even possible? And it's because when we all experience positive and negatives, and we just let ourselves be our epic self, our stupid self, our angry self, our sad self, all these selves together, what it does for the viewer is it makes them feel like you're approachable, like you're relatable. And even if they hate you, they probably just hate an aspect of themselves, but they love you for that. They inversely love you, I call it. They're attracted to something about you that they haven't fulfilled fully within themselves. And if you just have the courage to know that you're not trying to hurt someone and you're not trying to get someone to hurt you, if you trust in the universe to hold that vibration as true, you're still invincible. And better, all of the energy that comes at you is going to be good. You're going to be able to turn into something because you know who you are. If you authentically know who you are, and you'll always be able to turn someone's garbage into gold, or someone's gold into greater gold or platinum, it will happen like that. But it'll only happen if you courageously step outside your comfort zone and let that shit come at you. Because, from my example, at the end of the day, this person that is coming at me, I know is afraid because they won't say it with their own name. They're saying it with a bunch of fake accounts and fake names. So if anything, I feel sad for this person because whatever about themselves that they reflected off of me, they're making an unsolvable riddle for themselves because they think it's me doing it rather than it's their own mind doing it. And they're afraid of me. They find me as a threat because I won't say it with their face and with their name. They're trying to attack me from a place where I can't get back at them as if I would. When what I really would be like, hey, if first of all, those things didn't happen, I don't know where you got your information from. And if this did happen to you in some way through me, please let me explain and make amends so that you don't feel that way anymore, because that wasn't my intention with you or the parties involved. Give me the opportunity to make amends. Because it's not the case, It just simply is not the case. It's not something I'm offended by. Sure, there's an aspect of my ego that was like, well, fuck that, that's not true. But then when I come down to it, I'm like, it's not true. Enough said, So then it only comes down to, can I actually assist this person in whatever they're struggling with as it relates to something they projected I did, or they think that I did, but I actually didn't do. It would bring a certain level of them to peace. But the only way that we get to that level of peace is if we let our wildness roar. We let that imaginative, scared self out of the box. Free the beast, as they say. And hopefully it won't come around to it actually causing a degree of vindictiveness. Because sometimes when you free the beast, the reason why the beast was in the cage is because it's insane and it hurts people and it hurts you and stuff like that. But if you trust, you will find trust either in the universe or mankind, because the authorities on one side or the other will get to you and teach you where your boundaries actually are. Don't let your own mind make those boundaries. Let the collective mind make those boundaries. And you steadily push. This is how geniuses are born. About steadily pushing at the boundaries and thinking, where are their weak points? Where can I get free? Where can I get out of this box and into something greater? And just by expressing it as you did, that is the first step. Just like that, you are out of the box, and we all see you out of the box, and you feel that much more out of the box. And you realize, what was I so afraid of? This beast wasn't meant to hurt anybody. It's just a little shy or just a little timid. And that's okay, because it's big, It's a big reason why I'm not in where I'm from anymore, I just graduated from that pond. I had, and the negativity that resulted, I know that came from where all these negative reviews are coming from, was my struggle of being a big fish in a small pond, looking to get out. And developing a familiarity with negative, repelling energy so that I could be simultaneously go away and be pushed away. It was conscious, though, and it wasn't built of malice, but it was, meaning to make an impact. And I'm not afraid of making an impact, but the only way that you know to not be afraid is if you test the waters of it, going into it with a good heart, knowing I'm not looking to hurt anyone through this. I'm looking to experience my greater potential. I'm looking to experience my dream. Because at the end of the day, the only person that a person can possibly say I'm not sure what the word is, to compete against that, is you shouldn't achieve your dreams because I'm not achieving mine. I can't relate to you anymore. I can't reflect off of you anymore. Shame on you for not being able to reflect off of me, living my reality over you living your dreams. You know what I mean? That's what it ends up coming down to. And that's really the hardest part about living your dreams or achieving your dream job, is having the people you wish would come with you stay.
You lose, yeah.
Fall behind.
Yeah.
Apparently, you
or-
can lose 80. You will lose about 80% as a general number if you're gonna level up in those kind of.
That's true.
Yeah. Yep. Catherine and I have. I don't think about it as
Not
lost. I think about it as
but-
creating great space. Of higher than 80%.
It's rough, but it's important.
But we've done most of it with a sense of certainty and prowess over it. As in, I'm going through this consciously, and I'm not ashamed about it. You might be ashamed of me through going it, but it only reflects what you are going through as it relates to me achieving my dreams. So at the end of the day, it's true, and we all know most people in this world have not achieved their dreams and won't. Not because it's not possible anymore, because it's possible. It's all around you. But because if they refuse to and think about things in a relative vibratory reflectiveness, is a person who's achieving their dreams cannot reflect off of a person who's not. Except in, I wish I were achieving my dreams. I admire that person, or I hate that person, or but I'm too busy focusing on not achieving my dreams and trying to reflect that off of someone else who's not giving me the time of day because they're too busy achieving theirs. That's like the hardest thing to do to another person, but it will happen. And it's not something you're doing to them. It's something you're doing for yourself, and they're reflecting off of it. And that's really the big thing, that you really have to say yes to yourself. And by the way, let's take another couple of notes on, I didn't say enough about getting people into the yes mode. A really quick way in which to begin to generate leads or clients or students is ask them questions that are obvious yes answers. Even
Yes
if,
train.
Yes
train, they call it with car salesmen. What they do is like I don't know. This is color red, right? Or like stupid questions.
Stupid questions.
And it's like, oh yeah. Wouldn't you like to save the world? Or like oh yeah. Do you have like a €5 budget? Okay, then you can save the kids. Like so, it's just like a 3-time. Yes.
threes.
So it's like yes, and then sales yes.
Yes.
So makes the last yes easier.
Yes, because you already said. Like, see what I did?
Yeah.
I said, I responded with yes.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you say yes, like even in a response to your question or your answer, and then it's yes, then it's already subliminally like, even if you repeat that. Yeah.
But I like to do it right out front. I'm not a car salesman, but nonetheless, I have to make ends meet to keep leveling up my life. And the way that I see it is, you guys have invested a certain amount of the time and energy and money that you've earned from whatever job you have to transmute it into what I do so that you can do it more easily. It's really, the way that I see it is, it's a direct correlated effect. You had your realistic job. I have my unrealistic job. You're going to take a certain portion of your unrealistic job energy, money worth. You're going to give it to me, and I'm going to in turn pull you here, or help you to pull yourself here, as if this were like the dream realm,
So can I provoke you a bit? Is it also for you a benefit for that we are like basically giving our dreams to you as well, so we can collectively get bigger?
Yes.
Because if you do this like every time with this kind of quality of people, then you will also get better.
Yes, absolutely. And I'll put it even one more. Whether you guys know it or not, you're already living your dream. The dream is actually this table, and we're all on it already. I know this, but I don't know that you know this. And so what these trainings are, what they do for me, is they get me to understand that my external self, though I respect you all as your own individual persons, own individual universes, to me, from my standpoint, you're just an aspect of me and my life and myself and my experience. So with more of you participating with me, it tells me we're all living the dream together that much more, which brings me more faith, confidence, and certainty that I'm going to be able to keep living my dream more and more easily and more abundantly. Because you guys have all just reflected me that my external self has such confidence in me, the ego, that you'll actually give me some of your hard-earned money and better your attention and your time. That's faith. You guys have faith in me, and that gives me greater faith in myself, which gives me greater faith in you. And it's kind of this cyclical nature thing. So there's an aspect of me that does believe that we could do this with or without you paying me. I believe that that's possible. But I also believe that we all believe that we're not in a moneyless society yet. So I'm just thinking about it as time and energy is a representation that we show up as money. They even say time is money, right? So I have this, you have this, you give me that, I pull you here, but then I also explain you're already here, and now that we've just had this exchange, we're actually pulling ourselves closer and closer to this. Now we're a team, and we pull all of our energy resources together. Because what I know that's even more valuable than what we've discussed in these last 3 sessions, and way more than the money that you've paid me, is we don't know how these relationships that we formed today, how they might carry on into the future. Something that I told Catherine before we left, and I even made this ridiculous scene about it to make sure that it made an impact in both of our consciousness. I literally took a wine glass and I slammed it on the ground. And I was like, that was conscious for what I'm about to say. I don't care. 1,000 followers, subscribers, dollars is not worth the amount of one real life relationship. One real person, one real life relationship building is worth any amount of all of this digital bullshit. Even though I know this stuff is important, even though I know we're going to need this stuff and develop this stuff and want this stuff, still, we have to keep it real, and we need to remember that one relationship could equal all of those things.
Or more.
Or more. Yeah, exactly. So that's really the value of this, is recognize we're all in the stream together. We all have the same desire of becoming professional flow artists. Because I'm not even close to done. Now I have to get to the moon, apparently.
I'm already on my way to Mars.
The other
I was just
dream
going to
had
say,
was-
maybe I should just shoot for Mars instead.
Yeah, Mars.
Yeah, that's kind
exactly.
of where the fire artist should go.
I'm gonna wait a while.
What about this dream? Like I
That's
had
far.
a dream of like building up a non-profit organization for the flow arts. It's not professional, so I didn't put it in this workshop. But if you have a non-profit organization that like makes the pond bigger for like flow artists, then imagine that, like, similar to skateboarding that went into the Olympics. Similar to now there is a beach like Olympics that is going to be held where you have like surfers. What if one day when I'm 66 years old, there's 999 people standing in China, where the only thing that is real in this like fucking like imaginary world of the Facebook likes, where the last thing on TV that is still like people are paying for ads is the Olympics, and I'm like a fire clown. And there's 999 people in the stage that I walk with my flame that I take from the Olympic flame. And I take my flame and I go up the mountain, right? Because there's like the light or the fire of the fucking, the Olympic flame where, and I'm a clown, right? And I'm like going up with the flame because I just lit up 1,000 people of the fire artists below, right? And I walk up, and then we're in China, right? So and then I drop the flame, and I fall down the staircase. And it's the boom, and there's like, this like this crazy movie where the lights fall off the stadium, completely dark, and that's the start of the revolution.
Oh man.
Wow.
Sounds good to me. Heck yeah. I can already see it in Tiananmen Square.
But yeah, like that kind of vision was like, like what if, and this is like actually like this is not the start of the revolution. It's not like, but that vision of, let's see what is the flame that would excite us most, right? What is a common goal that everybody can work to? So if you have that on the spot, it's like, okay, we're now training not only us, but also the whole world to become to a spot where flow artist and fire is accepted as society as a sport, or as a kata, or as a dojo where you have people doing Muay Thai or MMA. And if you can visualize that in 2030 or 2040, like have like the vision of like the Olympic flame, where instead of going to Boom, where I also performed, as a, like, okay, so what's higher than that? And for me, the highest would be having to play fire with the Olympic flames.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Those are two epic
Those are
ideas that are going to
epic,
stick with me
beyond.
forever. And I think that too. And you mentioned China. It's such a sensitive point, and I have definitely a connection with that. And I'm going to be dreaming about this. And I love the revolutionary style thing. And I also do know that to truly make a difference in the world is to use the exact same thing that once offended or caused the injury to heal it. Like the expression is, use the hair of the dog that bit you to cure the bite. You heard that before?
No.
Well, another way of describing it is anti-venom is created out of venom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So thinking about turning something that is intimidating, like fire, something that's often regarded as something that's an aspect of destruction or
chaos,
war
yeah.
and chaos, but to use the exact same technique and make it seem like it's chaos. Like you're taking the Olympic fight, you're doing something, it's in a risky place, you're falling down the stairs, but then boom, it becomes this huge performance.
Yes.
Inescapable. You change the whole world, not just the flow artist world, you change the whole world with that sort of act.
Because you dropped the mic,
Yeah.
you dropped the
Yeah.
flame, right?
I'm there. See you in 2040.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Can I make one point about this thing? Is that also like you're gonna be taking this course online next, right?
Yeah. Okay. So
it's like that is
here's
also
I've got you guys in all sorts of yes mode right now.
We can push that as an exchange.
Let me push some things on you guys. It's
Are
not.
you going to put that on? Is that going
No,
to
it's
be...
not
Are we
really.
done with the recording already?
The course is going to continue when they leave South Africa. Then
Yeah.
Oh, but are you going to put that online for other people to listen to?
I haven't decided yet.